All right, folks. So I got Matt here. We have a lot to talk about in this video. Hey, if you're looking at starting, growing, continuing a side hustle right now, whatever niche it is, you're going to want to watch this video. There's a lot of things going on. Again, we need to talk about it. Number one, I know one of your favorite apps is Grubhub. You just saw they did something big here, folks. We saw this in other marketplaces. So Grubhub added the predicted miles to these order requests. They were the only app that didn't show you the miles. What are your thoughts on that? How are you going to use that? And will Grubhub maybe take more market share, at least from drivers? Maybe not the end users, but will more drivers want to drive on Grubhub? Again, thanks for being here, but are more drivers going to want to move to Grubhub now?
Yeah, so I've seen that more so than ever, they are battling for your time. Here in October, it's getting colder and colder, and I've seen where Grubhub will send you a really good order, and now the mileage, which is huge, because if you're getting a stacked order, if you're getting an add-on order, if you're getting a DoorDash order, all of these apps, you need to look at the mileage to see if it makes sense. You don't want to be driving 20 miles for 20 bucks because you're only getting $1 per mile. That's pretty low. Now, I think that more drivers will be driving on Grubhub, and here's why. I've seen basically for the past few weeks, once you get a really good order from Grubhub, they've been sending me request after request almost simultaneously as I finish that initial order. They want you on the app, they want you to stay on the app, and they're basically dangling this carrot in front of you saying, hey, don't even bother multi-apping, don't open another app, we want you to stay here, here's another really good order. We'll see how long that continues.
I mean, I 100% agree. I think it's going to push more drivers to. It's a one thing on Grubhub that you're like, well, I just don't know if I really want to drive on it. Now, I know you like it because, and let us know in the comments if you agree with this, but Grubhub, it might not be as busy, but it's tossed you monster orders. You've had the only $30 order that I've basically ever seen. You had a $30 order with still short miles. We had a shift recently that we drove. You had a $22 order. I mean, do you think that pay is ever going to change? I don't know why, Grubhub can offer those kind of orders. Do you think it's going to change just off the top of your head? I'm not sure there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's not just me. I've seen a lot of your comments, especially with Uber Eats now. It always changes. So you make sure you want to subscribe because all these things change constantly. You want the latest news. But Uber Eats giving me a lot of really small stacked orders or those extra orders after my first one. They're like a few bucks. And remember, Uber Eats merged and acquired Postmates. And a lot of you, we've been seeing the comments when that happened a few months ago, there's a lot of really small orders. Now with Grubhub, they also went through a huge merger recently, and I've been getting huge orders. And who knows why that is? Maybe their strategy is now trying to attract customers who typically order more food. I mean, there's all kinds of data that they have to kind of analyze what markets to enter into. That's a whole other conversation. But the fact is that when I get Grubhub orders, they're typically double digits, they're typically back to back. And in Pittsburgh, I mean, they're really my go-to, and things change constantly. It used to be DoorDash at the beginning of the summer, and now it looks like Grubhub's doing pretty good.
I mean, if you're getting double digit orders, I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, assuming, of course, there's a good dollars to mile ratio, how much am I getting paid for the miles driven? Let's talk about this. Something that can make a $20 or $25 order kind of have a really sour taste in your mouth is exceptionally long wait times. We had one recently. It was at a pizza place. Well, we waited like 40 minutes and it was crazy. And obviously cancel on those scenarios. I'll leave that video linked above, but we just do it just to see, how bad can it get? So what does that do for you? And this can be on any app here, folks, any food delivery app. Do you have, well, let me ask you, because I know a lot of drivers, and let us know in the comments if you agree with this. I mean, you have the blacklist. Like, now I'm not going to that restaurant again. Do you do that immediately after those long waits? Do you have like a 3 strikes and you're out rule? What is your strategy with wait time? How soon do you cancel? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I think this goes for any app. So, is it better on DoorDash? Is a certain restaurant better on Grubhub for some reason? I have not found that. If they're slow, they're typically slow across the board. We've had some experiences like that. I will say that restaurants get better or worse. I've gambled and I've taken orders from restaurants where it was too good to pass up, and I said, you know what, I have some time, I'm gonna wait. I went there and it was ready right away. And some of my staple restaurants on those power strips, which is the area of a lot of restaurants, they've really dropped the ball almost. And it could be a lot of reasons. Maybe they're really getting popular on these apps and they're getting too many orders to keep up with. Maybe they have a change in management. So you really want to drive all of these apps because they will change. Don't just throw them out like, oh, well, restaurants seem to do less, they're not as quick on DoorDash.
Let me ask you this then. Apologies for interrupting, but let me ask you this. So you mentioned that your staple restaurants can sometimes surprise you with a very long wait time versus you taking a risk where, restaurants that might have been more on your blacklist, the pay was great, you took it and it was fine. So the question, can we actually predict wait time? Do we know? Because again, the good ones have messed up and the bad ones have done bad. Can you actually predict wait time on any of that?
Yeah, so here's what I would say. If the dollars per mile is good, you don't want to pass it up because you've had maybe one or two bad experiences. If for whatever reason you get a bad experience at a restaurant, and it's right next door, if you want to take a shot on it, that's great. But here's what you want to do. When you go into that restaurant and okay, it's typically been a longer wait, you go in and what happens, it's not ready again. You want to make sure to ask, how long is it going to be? How long? And you can even ask, have they started the order already? Because if they say, oh, it's going to be 5-10 minutes, and you don't ask, is the order started? Then they might just be giving you that time so you stick around. I've had it where I've gone to restaurants, they say it's 5 minutes. And then I wait 5 minutes, okay, 5 more minutes. And then and it keeps going. So kind of like what we had recently with the 40-minute wait. But can you predict it? You can't predict from past experiences, tendencies, but you can't predict the current state of a restaurant.
I mean, tendencies, I was thinking, well, if you have a bad experience from that restaurant, some of these, it may be a mismanaged restaurant. And how is that? They're short staffed. They can't hire fast enough. They don't schedule. They have too many call offs, whatever it is. In the worst case scenario is they're popular too. So they're mismanaging the restaurant and they're slammed. They're getting a lot of board. We don't know. It can be a whole bunch of different things. So like you said, one bad experience, don't write it off because maybe they were short staffed that day. Maybe there's a big event and that's the reason that they're busy. We do have to move on though, but we're now in Q4. We're now in Q4. We've been watching closely and folks, let us know if it's been busier, if it's been slower for you. But here in Q4, I know here in Pittsburgh with all the universities, we're watching the universities, we're watching the colleges, and that's one of your favorite areas to drive, really central Pittsburgh here. So what are your thoughts on Q4? If, you watching this, if you're looking at starting or growing a side hustle this year, and if you haven't joined the team here, I definitely invite you to subscribe and join the team. What are your thoughts on Q4, universities and colleges, and the impending winter for those of us that do get winter here? What are your thoughts on that? Is it going to get busier, slower? What do you think?
Yeah, so this is our time to shine, if you will. Typically, the weather dictates demand, right? In the summer, if it's really pleasant out, where there's more people walking to the restaurants, takes away from demand. And also, more drivers get out there. Let's be honest, if it's rainy or if it's snowing, then people look outside, I don't really feel like driving. Now, the one thing I will say, going into November and December, make sure you're careful on the road. I mean, we had an instance last year where we actually got stuck in the snow and had to get out of it was a real steep hill.
Yeah, it was a one-way. We had to go up the one-way, back up the hill.
Yeah, so we made the delivery, we got out of there. But, I'm just going to say, make sure to take precaution on the road.
Maybe invest in winter tires too, folks.
But, again, if you're somebody watching this and you kind of dabble in it, don't be afraid of the weather. If it's raining or snowing, you can get out there. Again, be careful. You don't want to force it. If it's like a snow blizzard, it's not worth it. But now is the time to really make the most money you can possibly make.
Combination of, again, students returning, if that fits your demographic in your marketplace. Combination of, the changing weather. You're not going to be out and about or maybe dining out when the weather's nice. More people are being in. Definitely hear you there. So you have had some very big recent shifts, driving these big events. That's what we're going to talk about next year. So tell us your strategy for big events, sporting events. Things are reopening. We're having sporting events again, obviously. So, what was your most recent experience? You drove actually today. There was a game here in Pittsburgh. What's your game plan for game day?
Yeah, so and this goes if you're in a rural area or if you're in an urban area. As the weather, like I said, gets frankly worse and worse, it's going to be your time to drive. And you don't need to be right next door to universities. If there's fans in your area and the team, here in Pittsburgh, if you live outside of the city, they're still watching the game. So my strategy is going into, well, it's fall now, it's football season. So on those Sunday games, college games on Saturdays, see what time your team plays or your city's team plays. Every city and surrounding area has a team to cheer for, whether it's football or whether we move into hockey season, whatever it happens to be. For the big game, I've made over $40 an hour pretty easily with tons and tons of orders coming almost instantly from all of the apps because people are ordering pizza, they're ordering their wings. And, if you want to drive on those game days, that's a big strategy I would implement.
And I think the strategy is, you're telling me today, when you are so busy, I mean, you can be as picky as you want to, almost depending on your marketplace, of course, but I mean, you have the freedom to decline even a good order for an exceptional order. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. So remember, you can on occasion accept and then cancel if you get a super good order afterwards. Don't make a habit of it because it does affect your completion rate. Long story short, you want to make sure you complete most of the trips that you accept. But like Mike said, on occasion, you can take the better order. Again, you don't want to always do that. Accept one order at a time, please. Yeah. Don't accept multiple orders on multiple
different
apps.
Platforms, exactly.
Right. Yeah. But you can be choosy. And if you're running into a slow time for you, well, maybe you haven't been looking at the football schedule enough. Maybe you should start doing that because that's what we've been doing. We're always looking for that extra edge and to pass it on to you. So frankly, as we close out, I think football season, probably not closing it out, but as we're kind of getting deeper into the season, look up those game times. It really does benefit.
Yeah, a lot of different and unique things happening possibly in Q4 now that we're in, of course, the end of the year here to look forward to. So appreciate you being here, folks. If you want to see more from Matt, check out his channel, Your Driver Team at Matt. Excellent content over there. Again, appreciate you being here. And folks, if you did get value in this video, can you definitely drop us a like. You can also click the screen right here for another video, and we will see you in the next one.